A plant grows along roadsides, riverbanks, and field edges across the entire northern hemisphere. Most people step over it without a second thought. A 2021 analysis published in the journal Foods confirmed that Barbarea vulgaris contains glucosinolate concentrations comparable to commercial broccoli, and in some wild populations, significantly higher. Viking-era Scandinavians harvested it through snow, calling it the plant that outlasted winter itself. This is not folklore. This is botany. The plant is winter cress, Barbarea vulgaris, a perennial that fruits in frost and laughs at neglect. If discovering plants like this is what you love, subscribing to this channel keeps that knowledge coming. And before this video ends, you will learn something about this plant that almost no modern source mentions. Most cultivated vegetables collapse at the first hard freeze. Winter cress does not retreat. It belongs to the Brassicaceae family, the same lineage as kale, mustard, and cabbage. But unlike its domesticated relatives, it was never softened by selective breeding. It retained every ancestral defense mechanism. Glucosinolates, the sulfur-rich compounds that give brassicas their bitter edge, remain concentrated and potent. In cultivated broccoli, breeding for mild flavor reduced these compounds significantly. Wild Barbarea reversed that trend. The cold amplifies its chemistry. Below freezing temperatures trigger glucosinolate synthesis, not destruction. The plant essentially arms itself as winter deepens. It is a biological paradox. The harsher the season, the more nutritionally dense the leaves become. No greenhouse required. No controlled climate. Just frost, soil, and deep evolutionary memory. Medieval European peasants knew this plant by a different name, herb of St. Barbara. St. Barbara's feast day falls on December 4th, the heart of the cold season. It was deliberately named for her because this was the plant that fed the living when everything else had died. Historical records from monastic gardens in 12th century France document its cultivation alongside leeks and parsnips as a winter staple. In Scandinavia, it appeared in archaeological assemblages linked to Norse settlements. Sailors from northern ports harvested it before long voyages. It offered something rare in an era before refrigeration, fresh greens in January. That alone made it precious. Roman writers, including Pliny the Elder, documented related Barbarea species growing across the empire's northern provinces. The plant was not obscure. It was essential. Then the industrial food system arrived and erased 1,000 years of practical knowledge in a single generation. Barbarea vulgaris produces gluconestertian and glucobarbarin, two glucosinolates found in almost no other commercially grown plant. Glucobarbarin, in particular, has drawn serious scientific attention. A 2009 study in phytochemistry identified it as a potent deterrent to specialist insect herbivores, including the diamondback moth, one of the most destructive agricultural pests globally. That single fact matters enormously. It means wintercress is a natural pesticide, not a metaphorical one, a biochemically active one. Farmers in Denmark and the Netherlands have trialed it as a trap crop, planting it alongside cabbage to draw pests away from the main harvest. The results were measurable and repeatable, yet no major agrochemical company pursued it. The reason is logical and damning. A plant that grows wild, spreads without assistance, and requires no proprietary seed cannot generate recurring revenue. The system rewards dependency. Barbarea vulgaris offers sovereignty. Vitamin C content in fresh winter cress leaves has been measured at levels exceeding 60 milligrams per 100 grams, higher than orange juice by dry weight comparison. That number surprised early researchers. The plant also delivers substantial vitamin A precursors, calcium, and iron in concentrations that dwarf most supermarket greens. A 2017 nutritional survey published in the Journal of Food Composition and Analysis placed wild Barbarea vulgaris among the top-ranked foraged European greens for micronutrient density. Consider what that means. This is not a supplement. This is not a pharmaceutical extract. It is a roadside plant that outperforms engineered produce. The bitterness that modern consumers reject is precisely the marker of that density. Glucosinolates, chlorophyll, and polyphenols all taste sharp. They are also biologically active compounds that industrial selection has been quietly removing for 50 years. We trained ourselves to distrust the flavor of nutrition. Winter cress never apologized for its taste. Agriculture has long searched for non-chemical methods of pest management. The answer was growing in the ditch the entire time. Research published in the Proceedings of the Royal Entomological Society demonstrated that diamondback moth larvae preferentially selected Barbarea vulgaris over Brassica crops when offered a choice. The larvae were attracted to the plant's glucosinolate signature. But the trap was biological. Glucobarbarin disrupts larval development. The moths chose what killed them. This phenomenon, attracting pests to a plant that neutralizes them, is called a lethal lure. It requires no spraying, no residue, no contamination of soil or water. Field trials in certified organic operations showed meaningful reductions in crop damage when winter cress was planted in border rows. This is functional ecology working at field scale. The plant is not passive. It actively participates in its own ecosystem's defense. Barbarea vulgaris is a biennial or short-lived perennial depending on climate. It establishes a rosette in its first year and flowers in its second, producing bright yellow blooms that attract early pollinators when almost nothing else is flowering. It self-seeds prolifically. Once established in a garden or field margin, it maintains itself without human intervention. The roots are deep and fibrous, anchoring into disturbed soil and poor ground where cultivated crops struggle. It tolerates clay, gravel, and waterlogged margins equally. Early spring is when the basal leaves are at their peak growth, dense, dark green, and architecturally striking. Historically, these leaves were harvested from February onward in northern Europe, filling the hunger gap between winter stores and spring crops. That gap was real. People died in it. Winter cress did not feed kings. It fed the people who survived when the king's granaries ran empty. Planting it at field borders costs nothing. It returns every year without request. The most remarkable thing about Barbarea vulgaris is not its chemistry. It is its patience. This plant has waited at the edge of civilization for centuries, growing in the margins while the center consumed itself. It asked for nothing. No fertilizer, no irrigation, no careful attention. And yet it offered everything the season withheld from everything else. The Viking world understood marginal plants. Survival depended on reading the landscape with precision. That literacy has nearly vanished. But the plant has not. It still grows in the same ditches, the same roadsides, the same cold-facing slopes it has always occupied. It still produces its yellow flowers in early spring. It still outweighs the frost. The question is not whether winter cress is valuable. The question is whether the knowledge to recognize it will survive the generation that forgot it. Some things cannot be engineered back into existence once they are gone. Some things only need to be remembered.